So even if it looks like I'm not doing enough, it might be exactly what God called you to do. Even if God says, go take a sabbatical, and everybody else is like, I don't understand what that means, or are you sure you can afford to do that? You can't afford not to, because you don't know what the repercussions are because of the things that God has called you to. Welcome to the Unapologetically Unstoppable podcast. I'm your host, Jeanette Peterson. And on this podcast, we talk about how to partner with the Holy Spirit with your business and how to grow businesses with practical tips and tricks. Get ready. Here we go. Hey girl, hey, welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about time management and what that looks like from a biblical perspective and the things that we need to be doing to make sure that we're on top of our calling, on top of our business, and on top of the things that God has charged us with, right? Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I taught a class and it was all about time management techniques, and it was all from a secular perspective, meaning there was no biblical stuff in there. It doesn't mean that it was bad or it was not good or it was just blah, blah, blah. It just means that I didn't bring any biblical stuff into it. But today I want to re-give that talk in a way, but also include the biblical principles in it and get some backing up from the scriptures, right? Because here, when we build business, it is not this or that. It is woven together of business with the Holy Spirit, with the Bible, going to do the things that we have been charged with in both capacities, right? Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is one, take an audit of our actual time. What does that look like? What are we actually spending our time on? And this is not to shame yourself. This is just a no BS, just plain look at what is happening in your time. What are you doing? Where are you deciding things? What's in your calendar? Just taking an audit of those things. I've got a workbook that I'm going to put a link in the show notes so you can take a look at this workbook from the talk that I gave. This is not specifically for this podcast episode, but you'll get a lot of things out of the workbook. Okay. So this is the first thing you need to do. Take your time audit. What are you doing? What have you been spending your time on? What hours are you doing things? How are you doing things? Okay. And another of the factors that we need to do after we take the time audit is think about our multitasking. Are we multitasking or are we half-tasking? So this is how I want you to decide if you are multitasking or if you're half-tasking. How many browser windows, not tabs, browser windows do you have open right now? I'm going to count for you mine. And I'm doing really good today, actually. We've got 1, 2, 3. 3 browser windows open. How many tabs? One only has 1. Girl, I'm doing great. This one has 2, 4, 6, 7. And then the one over here has, oh, this is good. I must have shut some down. 9. So I don't have that many Windows tabs open right now. A lot of times I will save a tab in a different profile so that way I can look at it later so I can go back depending on what I'm working on, just so I don't have to see all the things I have to do, but I know it's there, or I'll save them in different tabs so that way I know. But like if I'm working on something, I do automations, right? And I've got a few one-on-one clients that I'm doing automation work for. So if I'm doing that deep thinking of rearranging the blocks and I need to remember where all the things are so I can understand it in my brain, it's not on paper, it's all theoretical, right? And my kid comes in because I'm a homeschool mom. And she's like, hey mom, look at this thing I just made. I made you this piece of paper and it's got the letter E on it for my name. And isn't it great? I have to pause. And then I have to think about what she needs because she needs some attention right in this moment. And I have to tell her, that's a great job, sweetheart. Please don't come back in my office while I'm thinking about these things because my brain can't handle the inputs. So I can't multitask. I have to tell her no. But then when I do give her some attention, I just want to be paying attention to her. I don't want to be like, hey, yeah, that's great. And like doing this over here and doing this over there and trying to help homeschool. And it's too much. My brain will actually do less things than if I'm just dedicated to one thing. Okay. And so I was reading the Bible, like, we all read the Bible, I hope, at some point in our lives. And I was looking at James 4, 13 through 14. And it says, come now, you say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such city and spend a year there and carry on our business and make money. Yet you do not know the least thing about what may happen tomorrow. what is the nature of your life, you are really but a wisp of a vapor, a puff of smoke, a mist that is visible for a little while, then disappears into thin air. This is the amplified version of James 4:13-14. And really it's just saying, are you really doing things that are important? Because you're only here for a quick hot second in God's eyes, right? So what are we doing every single day? If we're multitasking, trying to get all these things that we think are good done, is that actually beneficial for us? Most of the time, the answer is no, right? But how do we know what is important and what's not important? And that's where I'm going to take a look at the Eisenhower matrix. So the Eisenhower matrix is like have you ever played Foursquare in school? Think of a Foursquare map, okay? You've got 4 blocks and they're all split up in the middle. So you've got 4 squares, but they're all connected into one big square, okay? If you don't know what Foursquare is. And you put out these different phases. Like I said, you can download the workbook, but it's like urgent in the top left quadrant. And that's the column. And then the next column, those 2 blocks are not urgent. Okay. And then we've got rows. The top row is important. So it's urgent and not important and important, or not urgent and important. Or if you go down to the next row, it is urgent, not important, not urgent, not important. Right. And you're going to split out these tasks that you have to do every single day into these different quadrants just to wrap your brain around, like, is this urgent and important? Like my kid coming in showing me her piece of paper. Is it urgent? Yes, because it's intrusive. But is it important? Not really. Not important. It's urgent because she's coming in, but it's not important. Not for the work that God has served for me, right? The God of the universe created me to do a specific task while I'm here, but we are here for such a vapor. And so now I got to figure out what is actually important to my mission. What is important to rearing my children? Because that's also part of my mission. What is important to my family dynamic? What are those things, right? So in my mind, it is not urgent, but it's important. So I don't need her to come in. I need you to it is very important to her. So that means it's important to me, but it's not urgent. So I need her to have a time after work, after my door is open. You can come in because I'm no longer doing an important and urgent thing, right? Like if she came in right now during this podcast, I would say, hey, baby, this is not urgent. Please go out of my office. And having those boundaries. But if she busted in here and saying, Mom, sister busted her head open, that is urgent and important. I got to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are those things? And so just having that lens of, is this important or not important? Is this urgent or not urgent? Like emails. Emails and notifications are coming in. They're urgent. Doom, 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 doom. Are all of them important? No. My phone is on Do Not Disturb right now. So any notifications that are happening are not important. They might be urgent because they're happening right now, but they're not important. I can schedule those. They're not urgent, even though they're important. So those are schedulable tasks. They're not an urgent, important stuff. It's coming in urgent, but I'm not going to treat it as such. I'm going to treat it as not urgent, important for later. Okay? So if there is an emergency and my phone is on Do Not Disturb, there will be another way for people to get a hold of me. They will figure it out. Like if I see some notifications going off on my computer, if my husband comes to my door, if my phone starts ringing off the hook because it's on Do Not Disturb mode, if I ring more than once, I know that that's an actual emergency and I can respond accordingly. But I don't need to be interrupted when I'm doing deep work in my business to do something that's not, right? I'm not saying that we're not going to go to dance and I'm not going to be the one to take them there. I'm saying during this block of time, we're going to talk about time blocking later, but during this block of time, I am not going to be interrupted. Okay. Give me an hour. Don't interrupt. Don't knock on my door. Go play with something. Go create something. Go do whatever you want to under these specific guidelines, right? These are like bumpers on bowling. You can do whatever you want in these lines. Just don't go past these parameters, but don't bother me either. Don't bother me. And it's not that I'm trying to be rude to my children but I'm also not saying that every single one of their needs is above mine. Are some? Yes. Are every single one? No. And I'm trying to teach them that they have autonomy to do the things that they want to do and have fun. And my needs are not above theirs either. I'm not going to just come bust in and say, we need to do this right now because I said so and we need to do this. No. It is a symbiotic relationship that we have about time. Okay. And in Psalms, I was reading Psalms 90:12, and it says, teach us to realize the brevity of life so that we may grow in wisdom. So the wisdom is knowing what is important, knowing what is urgent, knowing those things, right? Those technical, like those things that we can do, those do tasks without jeopardizing the things that we're charged with. Our families, our lives, loving God, loving our neighbors, our jobs, the things like all of those, right? I need to have the wisdom to juggle them appropriately so that way I'm currently following his direction in line with how he wants me to live, but it's not one or the other. It's not black or white. There's all these, it's like a matrix. If this, then that, but if this, then that, but if this, then that, but if this, then that. And that's how we have to think. It's not just my kids want something, so I have to go to them immediately. It's my kids want something, but right now in this moment, I'm doing something more important than what they need because I set this time aside and I'm putting boundaries on it. And then I will go find out what they need if it is an emergency, right? Or is this an emergency? Do I hear screaming at the top of their lungs? No, I don't. They're going to be fine, whatever it is. If they're having an argument, this is their time to figure out how to manage disagreements in the home and work on that. Just because you argue with somebody does not mean that they don't love you. Like, figure it out. Work it out between yourselves. Okay. And then we also talked about the Pomodoro technique, which is kind of what I've been alluding to, which is time of deep work, then break. I never work from 8 to 8. I don't have time to. We will do a block of work, we will do a thing, and then we won't go for a walk. We'll do a block of work, and then I'll go on the puzzle. Sometimes I'm like, I did too much work. I need a bigger brain break. So I'll spend even more time doing something just to relax myself and make sure that I am focused on the work that I need to when I'm focused, and then also spending that time breaking. But what does a break mean? What does that look like for you? It can look like anything you want it to. It can be having a dance party. It can be having music loud. It could be singing loudly. It could be dancing. It could be going for a walk, like I said. It could be doing a puzzle, like I said. It could be doing literally anything that takes your mind off doing those things. Maybe you need to go take a shower. Maybe you need that 5 minutes in the shower to just be like, all right, I just need to just wash that deep work off my brain and just relax myself for a minute. I was reading a Bible study that I'm doing, and it was talking about a man who went to the doctor because he was having a headache. He was having a headache, and they said, oh, we need to do like an MRI right now. Okay, we need to emergency have a craniotomy on you because you're having concussion after concussion after concussion. So they did an immediate craniotomy. I don't remember all the details of what was going on with his brain, but they had to release the pressure because it was giving him several concussions at the same time. And they said, for the next 8 weeks, you cannot do anything. You can't listen to music with words in it. You can't have conversations. You can't watch TV. You literally can't do anything to give your brain the best possibility of healing, because if you don't, you may never walk again. Your brain is so hurt right now. It needs the time to rest. And so what does that rest look like? Sometimes it means just being with God and knowing that he is doing more work than you can by yourself. Okay, I was reading Ephesians 5:15-17, and it says, so be careful how you live. Do not live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity during these evil days. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. So even if it looks like I'm not doing enough, it might be exactly what God called you to do. Even if God says, go take a sabbatical, and everybody else is like, I don't understand what that means, or are you sure you can afford to do that? You can't afford not to, because you don't know what the repercussions are because of the things that God has called you to. So if God called you to take a season off, if God called you to a season to wait, to stop, to just rest in him, then do that. And you know what this man did, the man in the story? He spent every single day thinking about God, thinking about what God wanted him to do, what that looked like for God. And God gave him a couple of words that were like rest, provision, and protection. And so God was telling him that's what he was doing. And as he was walking through this 8 weeks of silence, loneliness, absence of people and things, without talking or communicating with them, He asked God to help him with his loneliness. And you know what? God was there with him every step of the way. And God never left him. And now this man is walking and talking and sharing his testimony. But if he hadn't went through the things that God told him to do and rested appropriately, he wouldn't be doing this. Okay. And then we're going to talk about time blocking. So time blocking is like what I said on the calendar is we're going to do this. Time blocking for me is a rhythm. It is not a specific thing like this period of time during the front end of my day is this. The second period of time is this. People do that. But for me, it works in rhythms. So on Mondays, I do meetings with my team and I try and just get acquainted with what I need to do for the week and checking all the boxes, checking out all the things, making sure everything's on point, getting my to-do list ready for the week and making sure that everything is going well. Tuesday is client delivery. That's when I have my mastermind calls and my training calls. And that's when I do all the things. That's when the podcast comes out. And then on Wednesday is anything that's connection based. That's when I record podcast episodes. That's when I talk to people. That's when I meet new people and have coffee chats. Thursday is like my actual like strong work day. That's when I'm catching up on the rest of my work, anything else that I need to do. If for some reason I could not fit somebody else in my schedule, they'll be put on a Thursday, but I try not to. I try and keep that just me doing work in my business. Then on Fridays is homeschool day. We go to homeschool co-op. We do field trips. We do different things in the community. And that is the day that I am not at my office hardly at all. So I've got like a 4-day work week. And then sometimes on Saturdays, depending on the day, I will do a few things here at work. But really, that's what time blocking means to me. So, I mean, it could mean different things to you. So it just depends. But like when we're thinking about making the most of every opportunity, don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. You have to know what you're charged with. What has God asked you to do for his kingdom? What has God asked you to do for your family? What has God asked you to do for your spouse? What has God asked you to do for your church, right? What are those things that God, not people, God has asked you to do? And if it's step back, then girl, you better step back. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what people think you should be doing. It should matter what God thinks you should be doing. You should fear the living God more than you fear other people's issues or thoughts or directions that they have for you. In John 4, it says, we must quickly carry out the tasks assigned us by the one who sent us. Quickly. We have to have that obedience, that reckless, yes, sir, let's go obedience to the one who sent us. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't your mama. Your mama didn't send you. Your mama might have birthed you, but she didn't send you nowhere, okay? She might have sent you to the store to get some milk, but honestly, she's not the one that's sending you to do his work, to do the mission, to do the kingdom work that needs to be had here on earth, to bring heaven down to earth. He did. So if we're not listening and hearing what he has for us and not doing the work that he has here for us, what is the point? Honestly, what is the point? Why are you listening to the podcast otherwise? You shouldn't be. Because if you're not here trying to do his work, then this is not for you. Because I'm trying to help the people who have been sent to unapologetically follow that and build the unstoppable thing that he sent us to build. No matter what that is for you. I don't know what that is. Only you do. But I want to empower you to do that, right? I want to empower you to have the time to do that. I want to empower you to have the time blocked off to do that. I want you to remind your family that you are not here for them. You're here for God first and then for them. So if God says to do something, do it. God will never tell you to disrespect your husband. That's not what I'm saying here. To disrespect your husband and don't do what he says over something God says. He's telling you to get your husband on board. Through prayer, through intercession, through those things. It's not convincing your husband or doing it and telling your husband he's wrong, but talking to your husband and getting on the same page and then going forth as one united front. Just wanted to clear that up. I'm not saying disrespect your husband. Go do what you want to do. You're an independent woman. No, ma'am, you are not. You are a very dependent woman on God and everything that he gives you, which is also your husband. Okay, just clearing that up. In Proverbs 21:5, it says, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. This goes back to the multitasking. I call it half-tasking because you're half-tasking everything. You're trying to get shortcuts out of here, shortcuts out of here, shortcuts out of here. you're not doing well work anywhere. So that's going to lead you to poverty in your clients, poverty in financial, poverty in the way you feel, and joy and wisdom. It's not going to lead to prosperity in any of those things. Prosperity is not always financial, can be, but prosperity to me is the prosperity of joy, peace, love, goodness, faithfulness, self-control, the fruit of the Spirit. That is prosperity to me. Because if I'm doing something and I'm not feeling prosperity, the fruit of the Spirit, then I'm not doing something right. And it has nothing to do with financial. I quit my 6-figure job to do this because the prosperity was gone. I had no fruits. I hated it. I was upset. I was drained. I was mad at my kids. And then I came to this. And then I'm seeing people say, my lives are changed because of you. I'm spending more time in the Word because of you. I have a relationship with God because of you. That's the fruit. My bank account don't even matter. You know what I'm saying? That does not matter to me. Will it come? Sure, it'll come. And I'm here for the 7-figure woman, the 7-figure Christian woman, the 7-figure business woman. But this fruit comes first. This is the fruit that actually matters. And then, like I said, I'm here about the systems and 7-figure system. So the next thing we need to do is figure out what we're going to delegate, outsource, and automate, because when we delegate the things to people who love those things and are good at those things, or automate the things that can be automated so that way you're not spending more money into things or people, or outsourcing in a way that we can, then we have a well-oiled machine and we're just chasing after Jesus. Chase. And honestly, that's all he wants. At the end of the day, that's what Jesus wants from us. He wants us to chase after him unapologetically, to do the thing that he's called us to do, and do it with obedience, speed, and fervor, chasing after him no matter what, forever and ever and ever. This is a longer podcast episode than I normally do, but it has been steeped richly in spirit, word, practical tips, and that's what I'm here for, to give you ways to practically partner with the Holy Spirit and build the unstoppable business that you were destined to. So I will see you guys next week with a guest, and I can't wait till you guys hear that guest episode. Talk to you then. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Go ahead and leave a review to let everybody else know how much this episode has impacted you. And you know what? I would love to get to know you even better. So go ahead and send me a DM over on Instagram at Jeanette.Peterson, or come to my free group at JeanettePeterson.com/group. I'll see you guys over there.